I have just opened Internet Explorer. You see here my standard startup page. I type in the IP address of the flow meter. Here it already comes up. And I open the diagnostics. You get a login screen. There is 5 different levels of login. So I'm going to log in as a standard user. And diagnostics opens. You see here the overall screen of chronic care. First thing you see is a green V, indicating the overall health of the meter. This meter is running fine at this moment in time. You see some basic data, such as the flow rate in the meter, the velocity, flow velocity in the meter, the speed of sound of the gas in the meter, in this case atmospheric air, and the signal acceptance of the different acoustic paths. In case pressure and temperature transmitters are connected, you see a live reading here. For this setup that's in our FAT room, we just plugged in a fixed value for pressure and temperature, since we have no transmitters connected. A second thing you see is the overall status of the meter here. The meter is not running only okay at this moment, but it has been running okay over the past 2 hours. Everything has been in green over the past 2 hours. In the field you will probably take a longer period, maybe a couple of days or even weeks. For this demo we took the last 2 hours. If we want to change the screen, for example, we want to go from overall status to status per path, simply click on the pull-down menu, select status per path, and there we go. Here's the statuses per path. Also, the timing here can easily be changed. Go to options, click on settings. The settings menu open. Here we can change, for example, the unit info. We can go from metric to imperial if you want to. We can select all these values up to the customer, very easy. If we wanted to change the display information, go from the last 2 hours to the last hour. Save the data to the meter. And you see the overall status has now changed to the last hour. If we want to go further, we could even zoom in. We can enlarge this screen, and we could, by simply clicking on the time bar, zoom into a certain period in time. Where you see all the details, and you can even shift this left and right to see exactly the detail you want to see. Okay, we go back to normal mode again. Other things we see here is an alarm lock. In case the meter has an alarm, data of 30 seconds before, all data during and 30 seconds after the alarm will be locked in a seconds interval, so you can exactly see the details back. There's an audit log where you can see all the changes made to the meter. There's a screen where we show general information about the meter. So we see this meter is from Chrono Oil and Gas. It runs in direct at the FAT room on air. It's a 4-inch 300-pound meter with this serial number. Dates when it was installed. We can see the volumes, the total inside the meter. And last, we can see an overview of the meter. This meter is running okay, but there is some flow profile distortion issues. As you saw in the picture, this meter is running on atmospheric air. There is no inlet and outlet. So once in a while, we might see the flow profile is slightly distorted. This is the start screen. Next screen we go to is the advanced mode, where we look a bit more in detail what's happening inside the meter. We're now in the advanced screen of chronic care. As you can see, the screen on the left and the screen on the right have not changed. This meter is still okay, still the green V. And here you see why there is a green V. If you look here, the overall status of the meter is okay. You can also see here the status of all the individual paths. Path 1 to 6 are okay. And if you zoom down a little bit deeper, you can see the status per parameter. For example, the speed of sound in path 3 is okay at this moment in time. This is a nice feature, however, it's still a form of an advanced version of condition-based monitoring, because it would tell you if something is wrong, but it will not tell you what is wrong in the meter. And here we come to the full expert system, the status details. This will tell you what is wrong inside the meter. You see here different numbers. As long as these numbers are below 33, the meter is okay. There is no reason to worry. Between 33 and 66, we give a warning. There could be light contamination in a meter, for example. The meter is still within custody transfer, but some long-term attention is required. If values are higher than 66, we give a real alarm. This means strong contamination, more than 2 parts failed, the meter is outside of custody transfer accuracy, and immediate action is required. One thing you see here, that the flow profile distortion is quite high, it's at 26. It's just below 33. There is no reason for warning. You saw the setup, the meter is running atmospheric air, no inlet and outlet, so the flow profile isn't optimal. Once in a while it slightly goes up and we see a flow profile warning. Again, here you see the meter at this moment is running okay. Last thing you see on this page is the graph here. It shows velocity per path, but we could change this again by a click of the mouse into anything we would like to see. The lights you see here are basically a summary of the expert screen. So I'll now go to the expert screen. And in the expert screen you see the lowest level of evaluations we do. All individual checks that we do are shown here and are given a value. You see, for example, here on velocity, there is some warnings and an error on the flow profile velocity. That does not mean the overall health of the meter is not good, but it means on the lowest level we see some warnings. We combine those into the advanced screen, and from there we come to an overall health of the meter. We're now under the graphics header, and we have here the real-time historical and status screen. We're in the real-time screen at this moment. And here you can see all the live readings of the meter. You see, for example, in the graph here, the gains per path. You see that a few gains are high. That's paths 3, 5 and 6. 3 and 6 are high because of the low pressure in the meter. The meter runs at atmospheric air, so the longest paths, 3 and 6, will have slightly high gain. Path 5 just went to green again. A little bit high, nothing to worry. It has to do with the atmospheric conditions under which this meter runs. Other items we see are signal acceptance, speed of sound, flow velocity in the meter. You see that in every case path 6 has a lighter color. The reason is that path 6 is not used for flow measurement. It's only used for diagnostics, so we gave it a lighter color. We see here the flow profile, the signal acceptance, flow velocity per path and overall flow rate. As with the other screens, all those screens are user modifiable. We can, for example, if we take signal acceptance, enlarge the screen, and we can change the form of the graph. We could go for a horizontal bar graph. Alternatively, we could go for a line graph, or we could, for example, go for a spider diagram, which you see here. Any of the screens you just saw are fully user modifiable. So all the graphs can be changed pretty much to whatever the user wants to see. All the graphs you see here are simply user modifiable. Just click on them, you can see all the different graphs. There's 2 more tabs here. Historical, that allows you to download historical data. I will not go into that. Last one I want to show is the status bar here. Just clicked on status. I just clicked on status, and here you see the historical data starting at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, from this 8 o'clock this morning till 11:10 today. Overall status of the meter, status per path, we have flow profile distortions and bottom fouling. Pretty much everything is in the green. You see we have some flow profile issues once in a while. Again, there is no inlet sections on this meter, it's just a fan bolted directly to the meter running on atmospheric air. All these graphs can be changed again. For example, we look at bottom fouling here, but we could change that to ultrasonic noise just by a click of the mouse. We're in the real-time data again, and you just saw the person downstairs putting a piece of tape inside the meter. And what you see at the moment is a lot of values going to the red. That's what we call the hand detection mechanism. The person sticking his hand in, of course, blocking all the ultrasonic signals. In a second, the values will continue to normal again as the hand is out. One thing you see, that speed of sound of path 6 has gone up. The reason, of course, is the sound signal of path 6 no longer bounces on a clean metal surface. It, however, now bounces on the contamination, on the pollution, the piece of tape that we put inside the meter. If we go to the overview screen, we see the bottom fouling is detected by the meter. The measurement is still okay. We're still within custody transfer accuracy. There is no real reason for warning other than there is bottom contamination in the meter, which you see here. In the advanced mode, we see the bottom fouling has gone to 43. So it's no longer below 33, it's above, it's 43, meaning we give a warning for bottom fouling, which you see here. Also, you see here the speed of sound of path 6 deviates. There is a warning. Again, the reason being at too high velocity because the bounce is now done on the piece of tape. In the expert screen, we see a lot happening in path 6. Yeah, that's the part that's designed for bottom fouling detection. So here we see the warnings and the alarms caused by the contamination in the meter. We are back into the overall screen. You see here the effects of the flow profile distortion that we made and that we removed again. We just put a piece of tape over the transducers as you just saw. There we get the warning on path 2. The flow meter is still within custody transfer accuracy. There is, however, a warning now on path 2. At this moment it's a warning, and in a few seconds this will become an error as the path is blocked by a piece of tape. There it is, we now get the full error on path 2. The meter is still custody transfer as it uses path substitution, so the other paths compensate for the failure of path 2. However, there is a failure on path 2, indicating you should warn your maintenance crew. We're back into the real-time screen. You see here a hand was stuck in to put the tape in. Here it was taken out. That's the hand detection again. We're now going to make the contamination as you just saw. A piece of tape stuck before the meter. Air is being sucked through, so the fan is sucking air through the meter. We block the bottom of the meter on the inlet side, and immediately you see the flow velocity starting to change. The flow profile has been very upset, and the flow profile starts to change. Also the flow rate starts to drop down because part of the inlet has been blocked by a piece of tape. If we go to the overview screen, you see nothing yet. It takes a little bit of time to take the averages. So in a minute you're gonna see that the flow profile has been distorted and the meter will go into warning mode. And you just saw the meter did not even go into warning. The flow profile distortion is so bad, as what you saw that we caused. The meter goes into alarm. There at this moment is an alarm. There is a serious flow profile distortion. In fact, it's so bad that custody transfer accuracy is affected at this moment in time. Again, this is pretty logical. We blocked a large part of the meter. Okay, we go into warning, so this is very critical. It's just affecting custody transfer accuracy, just not. It's borderline. There is, as you can see, a serious flow profile distortion inside the meter. I just went into the status overview. We have been playing around with this meter a bit. You saw us putting pieces of tape in and out, and here we have the status data of this meter. If we look in the overall status, we see a big dip here. And if I look in the other graphs, for example, the signal quality, the signal acceptance and the speed of sound, I cannot really explain this dip. Besides this dip, there's a few other things I see. I see the signal quality here dropping, going up, dropping and going up again. I see signal acceptance dropping and speed of sound going up and down. So something happened to this meter. Well, what is it? Let's go and find out. Let's look at the status per path. And immediately you see here path 2 went down. We had path 2 going to red, going up again and going to red again. Now remember, we put some tape on path 2 and we did it a couple of times. So path 2 failing caused the changes here. But it still doesn't explain the big dip here. So I can look a bit further. I can look at example for wall fouling. I click on wall fouling. Well, that doesn't really explain it. There's not much to see here. I could look at ultrasonic noise, for example. And again, ultrasonic noise, there has been very little. That doesn't explain the dip here either. I could look at bottom fouling. Well, there has been some bottom fouling. You saw us experimenting with it. But again, it doesn't explain this dip here. So we could look one further and look for flow profile distortions. And now you see the status has gone to red here, and the reason was a profile distortion. This is the piece of tape we put in front of the meter. So with these graphs, with a few clicks, I can easily see what happened. I can see all the data inside the meter. One last feature of ChronoCare that I wanted to show is the reporting. There is a report button here, and when I click on it, a report opens. This report shows some details about the meter. It shows the meter is okay at this present moment. All features such as bottom fouling, wall fouling, etc. are okay. If we go down a little bit, you see a graph. This meter has been okay for most of the time. There have been some hiccups here when we made the pollution in the meter to show you how the diagnostics worked. For the last half hour, the meter has been okay again. This is 3 hours. Normally we would of course take a much longer period of several weeks or months. One thing we put in here is a box where 2 people can sign. ID behind this is a report is made monthly, and for example the service engineer and the supervisor sign off that this meter was okay. If there's ever discussions about the accuracy or about delivery of the gas, those reports might be a big help in saying no, this meter has been okay. One step further, but that's probably a little bit in the future, is with these reports you might be able to extend your recalibration dates, since you have proof that the meter is okay. Final feature is the downloading of historical data. If we go to options, storage, you see here all the data you can download. You can, for example, download the log data, the GC gas chromatograph data, their status data, all kinds of audits and alarms can all be downloaded. This comes out as a simple Excel file. Of course, you can do this from behind your desk with all the things I showed. You don't have to go in the field, but you can do it from behind your desk, either over the internet or the Ethernet. It's just a web page. But of course, all this data is also available on the Modbus map, so you can get it directly into your DCS in case you want to get this in.